Okay, so we're live in Redding, California, 6 p.m. Yeah, pardon me if I have rings under my eyes. I'm going on about an hour's sleep. So today I'm coming to you with my brand new, this is not an advertisement, I'm not an affiliate, but coming to you with the new C920 Pro HD webcam. So it wasn't a purchase I wanted to make now, but my old webcam has an awful time staying focused on my face when I'm teaching online. So yeah, so I am actually pretty excited about getting it. Yeah, broadcast at 30 frames a second in 1080, or at least up 1080. So hopefully that's what you're getting right now. But yeah, so yeah, I went to bed at about almost 1 a.m. last night and woke up about an hour later, and to get prepared to do my my English lessons. And so yeah, so taught for 3.5 hours this morning, and yeah, I had a decent series of lessons, although because I want to give my students my best, but it's hard to give my students my best when I'm on an hour of sleep. But I think I have something like 244 excuse me, 244 positive comments on my teaching over the last 5 or 6 weeks so far. And yeah, so I guess I guess I'm just really proud of that. Actually, 2.5 hours last night, 2.5 hours that I taught. And but I did get one comment today that I'd had that my audio had gone out for 5 minutes during a lesson, and so I went and looked at the lesson because they record all the for Landy. I'm teaching for Landy English, and so with Landy English, they were on this certain platform that I'm using called Landy 1.0. They record all the lessons, and which I really appreciate, and because it gives me an opportunity to look back if I want to. And anyways, I went and looked at the lesson, and the audio seemed fine until about 13 or 14 minutes into the lesson, and then my audio goes out, and I teach my students. It's funny watching me teach. Just with the nonverbals, and somehow my students still managed to follow me somewhat through the lesson. I can remember it, but I remembered that lesson in particular because for several minutes my students didn't seem to be able to follow me very well, and I was tempted to become impatient, but I managed to not do so, at least to some extent, I guess. And so then I finally realized, oh, my audio isn't making it through. So I jiggled my cable for my Bose headphones that are like $100, and they started working again. And so thank God that I ordered a brand new set of headphones, and this time they only cost me about $75 instead of $100. They're excellent headphones, and they last me like I use my headphones quite a bit. I listen to many audio books and a bit of music, and I use them for everything. And so the microphone quality has been good, and the sound quality has been good. So I reordered them because they stay in my ear, and because I use them a lot when I'm biking. But anyways, so yeah, so thank God I ordered them, and those came today, and so you get those tonight when I go home. But yeah, so anyways, my apologies for any background noise that's coming through. I'm coming to you from the Maydane Eatery. So yeah, so I actually recommend the food here. It's pretty good, and the service is good. Daniel is a good server, and so yeah. But I taught until 5:30 this morning, and then I spent basically all day researching along the lines of van life. And so if you're not familiar with what van life is, this movement. I guess it's been going off I guess it kind of popped up in America in the 60s and 70s, but basically it's like kind of like I wouldn't say a modern gypsy movement, but basically like people who are minimalistic, who are oriented towards inner experiences, are more adventurous, perhaps, would be my guess. Yeah, so basically what happens is people will get fed up with the 9 to 5, get fed up with spending, 50% or of their income, more or less, on living expenses, on their mortgage and whatnot, and so, but people are starting to realize, they're starting to wake up to, and this is in alignment with the title of this message today, is counter narrative living. And so something that I've been waking up to recently is just this strong consumerist narrative in our society that basically says, if you have a problem, spending money is a solution. So if your self-esteem is low, or you're not feeling good about yourself, or you're having a bad day, or whatnot, then buy something. Go buy makeup, buy a toy, buy a car, buy whatever, and then on top of that, like, there's this, and this is not to denigrate anybody that chooses this lifestyle, because for some people it's very actually comforting and affirming, but for a lot of us, working 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week even, and paying for basically a gigantic status symbol in the form of a house and cars that we take loans out on to afford, basically we become assets of financial institutions, of the government. We pay 50%, depending on your income level. We pay 50% of our income in taxes, and then we take the other 50% and we pay, several $1,000s a month in other liabilities, and so somebody's making a lot of money off of us. And if you're familiar with the root word of mortgage, the root word of that is the same root for mortuary, which is death. And so a mortgage is like a death certificate. It's slavery. And so what we have is a situation in America where we're being driven by consumerist narratives. We have bought into this idea that in order to be important, in order to be valuable as people, we need to look like other people. We need to have the things that other people have, and it's bunk. It's bunk. And again, this is not to denigrate anybody that does, enjoy their career or enjoy staying home or enjoy routine. There's some people that do, and that for them that's great. But there are those of us like me that the thought of a routine life where I know everything that's going to happen every day for the next 35 years sounds like torment and saps my energy. And there are those of us who, when we consider adventure and taking risks, that actually energizes us and fills us with joy. And there's a lot of us who are realizing that the more things I own, the less soul I have in me, and the more soul I have invested in the things, to some extent. And I remember several years ago when I moved out of my townhouse and I threw away several boxes of belongings, even things that meant a lot to me, but I just didn't want the stuff anymore. And so, but I remember after having thrown those things away, just this, it was like my soul was coming back to me. I had identified with these things. I'd had my soul wrapped up in these things, and once I just threw them away, it was like I was getting my life energy back, getting my identity back. And so, along the lines of minimalism are the people who buy into this and so the idea is like buying a van or a used van or a new van, depending on one's budget and desire, and selling the house or renting the house out and getting rid of the mortgage and living in a van full time, or a motorhome, or something along those lines. So today, my dad is a prolific collector of vehicles, and he has a few bodies of these motorhomes called Toyota Dolphins, which are, when they're in good shape, are in pretty high demand. And so I did a bunch of research today to figure out how to solve a transmission problem that the transmission isn't working with it. And if I could figure out that problem, then I'll probably buy this Toyota Dolphin and make it my home for the foreseeable future. And so since I make all my money online teaching English or selling books, and I'm working on a website, or on an online business that will help people with their intellectual development. As long as I have internet, then I can work wherever I want. And since this community is so countercultural or counter-narrative, counter-consumerist narrative, and stuff equals importance, well, in this movement, that's not what it means. It's more about frugality, about enjoying things appropriately, but not in excess, and living more for experiences and for freedom than for routine and comfort, and to some extent. And so I did a bunch of research about that today, and been just consuming videos on van builds, as they call them, and I spent several years in construction in my late teens and early 20s, and so I'm reorienting myself around learning to build in RVs, and learning to construct a home that's frugal and more along the lines of what I want, which is really exciting and a fun learning experience. And I'm a pretty avid learner. I get a lot out of learning and trying new things and experimenting and synthesizing information from different parts of life and different sources. And certainly you could say that I'm eclectic in many ways. And so it's an exciting time, but it's like I realize that for a lot of people, like the way that I'm choosing to live is it's not normal. For some people it's weird. And so there's I bike. I don't drive a car. I bike everywhere, and if I get a little motorhome or a van and convert it into a living situation, then I'll park it somewhere and I'll still bike quite a bit. And in the city I live in, it's a fairly conservative city, and I mean I have a lot of conservative libertarian ideals, but one of the problems in this context, and maybe it's not the fault of conservatism, but there's this like kind of looking down on people who bicycle as a means of transportation or walk, and unless they look upper middle class and are wearing spandex or whatever. And so in the city I occasionally have people just harass me for riding a bike, and I suppose it pushes their buttons when I'm riding a bike and I'm wearing a tweed jacket and I look a bit professor-like. But anyways, so it's an exciting time of change. I hope to, once I get my home on wheels prepared, and the internet as off the grid as possible, not to isolate from people, but to get as much management over my resources as possible. So electricity, internet, water. So I'm planning to do a full solar system for my home on wheels. I may even do rain harvesting, rain collection, and um, and uh, and yeah, and so just institute several systems that will make it easy for me to go long periods of time without having to pay for water, electricity, internet, and whatnot. And I will pay quite a bit for internet, but I think I can do it in a way um, that is relatively inexpensive. And so yeah, it'll be an off-grid life, but hopefully a life of greater community, greater connection, interpersonal connection with people, and a life of adventure and appropriate but regular and consistent risk taking. So I'd like to drive up to Alaska, tour around Canada, um, and eventually, tour through the states. Of course, I'd like to see New York and Nashville and LA, and hang out a bit around San Francisco, because I would just enjoy that so much. But it's come to my attention that it's possible to drive to South America, and so notwithstanding some kind of dangers along the way, I'd love to drive through Mexico and down to South America, to Argentina, to any countries that are safe to be in. I even have a friend in Colombia. It'd be great to visit, and and continue to do my thing, maybe with English teaching, or perhaps graduate marketing consulting. But yeah, live in a big adventure. And I even heard today that it's possible to transport one's vehicle overseas. So if I was able to swing it, I'd love to take my home on wheels to Europe, tour around Europe, tour around Eastern Europe and Israel and Asia, if find the roads and do it safely. Not sure if I want to do Africa because it's so intense there and not safe at times. But yeah, just go big, man. And so I have a feeling that living the van life will put me into contact with people who are much more attuned and meaning from risk-taking, from good discussions, from relational development, and from variety and openness to experience. And with this and whatnot, I hope to start, I don't know if I would call it vlogging, but I guess I would say like kind of lecturing on ideas about alternative lifestyles, and maybe even loved, and to feel connected with. And so I hope that going forward resonate with you, help you feel not alone, like that somebody out there knows you, and hopefully together we can form a community and support one another in our mutual dreams and aspirations, and through that find our voices, find affirmation for the adventures that we're taking and the thoughts we're having, that are counter narrative, And, you know, for instance, debt freedom, but not only debt freedom, but developing assets and minimalism and traveling and enjoying and savoring life on a daily basis. So I hope that you'll join me and join my group of thinkers and feelers and adventurers, and come with us and come with me. And together, by living lives authentic to our own identities, to how God made us, we will add to Earth, and we'll make Earth a better place. So thank you so much for joining me today. Bye-bye.